Commissioner Knizik has requested an excuse. Commissioner Clark-Holman. Commissioner Basham. Commissioner Killeen. Chair Dobb.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item.
B, Chairwoman's remarks.
I have none. Next item.
C, approval of the May 10th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Been moved by Commissioner Killeen, seconded by Commissioner Basham. Are there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carried.
Next item.
D, unfinished business. There is none listed.
Next item.
Item 1, under new business, requesting commission approval of a 4-year comparable source professional services contract with a 1-year option to renew with Allen Law Group.
This is a contract for Allen Law Group to aid the county in following ARPA financial and reporting tasks. And I see we have the administration here to talk on this item.
Through the chair, this is Aaron Wagner, the Chief Administration Officer for Wayne County.
Chair and Commissioners, this is Shantika Bullard, Grants Director for the county.
Through the chair, Jake Brower, Budget Director for the county.
Welcome.
Yes, the item before you is a new contract to continue the compliance tracking for ARPA projects that was initially done through Guidehouse. Some time ago, Corporation Counsel had, under delegated authority, started a contract with Allen Law Group with the intent of having them review some of the activities just from a policy perspective. And through that, we opened up into a wider discussion with Allen Law Group to have them actually take over these activities. The proposal was very robust. It gave us the ability that in addition to the reporting and the accounting practices, there is also a legal component because they are a law firm that when we're going through with the due diligence of future projects or in the reporting or the requirements, or if there were issues that were to come up in the future, that it just seemed in the county's best interest to have this contract set forth. The Guidehouse contract winds down on June 2nd for the activities that they've been providing. So this would be a nice carryover for that on future events. Also too, there's a major change where this contract would not be through the Economic Development Department. It is actually going to be owned and let through grants. So Shantika Bullard would be the owner and the leader of this contract. And so there was a recognition that this was really a best practice for the county to have these activities and this contract housed within MMB under grant supervision.
So one of the things that we have taken into consideration in reviewing having Allen Law Group come and assist us is our capacity concerns. There's been vacancies that we're aware of within MMB, specifically in this case grants, for some time. And with these funds being distributed out into the community in projects, it would be in the county's best interest to have additional assistance in reviewing for compliance and the management of these additional parties that will be working with us to administer those projects.
Commissioner Basham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am not real happy with the response I got from the administration relative to comparable source. And that's a bug with me. And I think it was just mentioned recently about best practices. I think best practices for the commission would be to have this thing bid out and pick the lowest qualified bidder. If the Allen Law Group, and there's nothing against them personally, but if they were the only one responding, I would support it. But if you don't bid it out, we have a role to play in county government. We're not a private business. And, you know, the thing of it is, I have a responsibility. And a lot of folks don't like it, but I'm going to do my job and go home at night. And that should have been bid out. And that's why I'm making these comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Colleen?
Chair. And I always mess up their name. Guidehouse? Guidehouse. We contracted with them for the ARPA dollars because everybody else in the country goes to Guidehouse and uses their services. I'm overstating perhaps, but very commonly all across the country. What's the status of that contract now? Is that contract expired? Where are we at with it?
Through the chair, that contract expires in June 3rd, 2nd or 3rd. I'll have to go back and double check, but it's the beginning of June is when that contract expires.
Because we're making a strategic decision not to re-up that contract
That is correct.
and to go this way instead.
Yes.
Do we anticipate for completing the whole ARPA process and spending all the money and all that kind of stuff, that's going to be a 4 and possibly 5 years that we're going to need this help on ARPA? Why are we out 4 years with a 1-year option to renew? Why is it that long?
Because the ARPA dollars we have up until a hard deadline to expend the funds, and then some of those programs may continue a year or two past that, just from a compliance and reporting perspective. We want to make sure that we are able to still be in contract to capture that information.
I wouldn't have blinked if it was like a 2-year contract with a 1-year option. The hard date you referred to, I believe that's June 30th of this year.
June 30th of
For spending ARPA dollars or committing ARPA dollars.
for
As
committing.
far as the feds are concerned, when do we have to have all those? Because we just voted on that 190 million and what we had to do with it because the feds might want to claw back. They got some budget negotiations going on in Washington that may impinge.
Yes, so the Jake Brower, Budget Director through the chair. Answering your question, there are several pieces in motion here. The first piece is the grant itself, which has a statutory deadline as defined in the final rules. That is, we have to obligate funds by December of 2024 and pay out those expenses by December of 2026. When it comes to the June 30th deadline, this was a discussion related to expenses that we had incurred that were eligible, and also broader discussions within the federal government of if they were to look for federal funding for funding sources to give up in exchange for bargaining related to the debt ceiling discussion. That might be something where they say, hey, any funds that you have not obligated to date, we are now clawing that back. And so by obligating those funds, we are in recognizing the expenses we've already incurred, we are then protecting the county's interest.
And that was an argument that made sense to me. So obligation of ARPA dollars is June 30th of this year, according to the feds?
Or by the resolution, that is not a statutory deadline. That is a goal that we had internally in order to protect ourselves against any eventualities.
Okay, so you kind of came up with a date and said
yeah, so
June
I think
30th is probably better than October 30th.
I think what we're hearing at the federal level through the United States Federal Reserve is that They may run out of funding as early as June 1st, as late as June 30 for paying federal debt. So that was really the deadline that we were looking at, that we might see some
June
activity
1st, They
there.
may not be able to allocate some ARPA dollars that we thought, not just us, but around the country.
Yeah, so that would be,
Okay.
that would affect not just us, but the entire county.
And that's all tied up in the deficit discussion, I'm sure. So what's the hard date then? You said next summer?
December of, so now we have officially obligated all of the funds. We have until December of 2026 to expend the funds. The 4-year term of this contract will begin upon approval by commission with a 1-year option to extend. Reading through it has very favorable termination language for the county if we decide that we have wrapped up all of our compliance and reporting guidelines. We may issue
Okay,
that.
so now that's starting to make a little more sense. We have to spend these dollars within 3 years, 26, summer 26, something like that?
That'd be correct.
And if that's 3 years out, and then there's going to be trailing paperwork for maybe a year, maybe more. So let's throw in a 1-year option. Is that the thinking?
Yep, that is the basic premise.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you all.
Commissioner Basham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering, why are we changing from guardhouse if we've already spent 3.9 million? I just wonder why we're changing.
Through the chair, there are a number of factors. One, we identified that, moving the contract out of EDD, moving it into grants. This agreement gave us greater flexibility with helping facilitate better compliance within grants. The administration just determined that the best path forward was to move away from Guidehouse and go into this direction.
About the amount of money that you've already put into Guidehouse.
The money that we put into Guidehouse, was for them to run the programs that we had up to date for their administrative costs. And so, that contract was naturally ending in June. And it was our decision not to continue in that direction, but to move to this direction. So we're not canceling the contract per se midway through the process. It's just that was the end date of this, and we opted not to re-up with them.
I have one final question. Were we paying an hourly rate to Guidehouse for their services?
Through the chair, I'll have to go back. I know that it was a not to exceed, and there were in the billables hourly rates for, or a rate card for different services. So I do believe that contract, I do believe that contract did have a rate card associated with it.
And for this contract, it's generally like a regular legal contract. We'll be paying an hourly rate plus expenses.
Yep. And so, and that the rate card that we had with Guidehouse did, it was, I think it was, well, I can provide it, but it was more expensive than the base rate that we're paying for this contract.
Okay, any last questions or discussion on this item? Okay. Thank you for joining us. Madam Clerk, next item.
Moving to the addenda, item 2. Requesting commission approval of the reappointments of Michael R. Collin, Beth A. Braun, Stephen E. Dunn, Lawrence R. Faint, and Raphael J. Landini, and the appointment of Amen Tamimi to the Wayne County Peer Review Group of Surveyors.
All right, do we have any questions on this item? Is there anyone? Oh, Commissioner Colleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could somebody review for me today, please, what the job of this board is?
Speak on this item. I believe someone is on their way to speak on this item, so why don't we move forward to the next item and then we can come back.
Item 3, requesting commission approval of Amendment 1 to a 3-year comparable source contract with 2 one-year options to renew with Oracle America.
This is for software for our new ERP system, and we have members from the administration to speak on it. State your name and title for the record.
Greg Boss, Division Director, Enterprise Applications. This is actually for a new environment for testing purposes for the Oracle Fusion project. It's actually also helping us to mitigate some other environmental needs that we have with respect to the existing environments that we have. We expect that we'll probably need a few more test environments as well as we move into the ERP phase of this project. We're in the HCM phase right now. So this will be used for training purposes in the HCM environment. And it's a pretty standard practice for Oracle to request additional environments through the course of a project like this.
For a non-IT person, when you say environment, what do you mean by that?
This is a standalone, like, you know how you have a development, production, test instance. It's a standalone instance like that. So it will be another like production instance.
Okay. Right. Any questions on item number 3? That with us, thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move on.
Item 4, requesting commission approval of a 1-year memorandum of understanding with the 3rd Judicial Circuit Court of Michigan.
Good morning. I don't know if that turns off automatically. Just tap on it. and
Hit
see
it
if
once.
Being close to it.
I don't even, oh, there we go.
All right, please state your name and title for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Robin De La Russa, Director of the Indigent Defense Services Department.
Jill Recker, IT Manager, Indigent Defense Services Department.
Welcome.
And Madam Chair and Commissioners, this MOU is really pursuant to conversations that have occurred over the course of probably about 3 years since the inception of the MIDC Act and grant funding to the county. Just for a quick background, back when the MIDC Act was passed and the first grants were issued to systems, Third Circuit Court, in response to that mandate of the standards, created its own in-house rotational assignment system. Once we became a department, conversations ensued regarding getting access to that system, just as a sort of helpmeet, if you will, until the county was able to create its own case management system. There were some roadblocks there, mainly because of lien rules with Michigan State Police and other matters that would not allow access into the court system. However, after some diligent efforts, conversations with the Michigan State Police and lien auditors, we were able to reach some sort of agreement, if you will, that would allow our department employees to get access to the court system only for the purpose of handling the rotational assignments pursuant to Standard 5 of the MIDC Act. So this is just yet another step of transitioning all of those functions out of the court into the county. This is a helpmeet, if you will, until we are still able to get our own case management system. So the MOU is sort of a licensing agreement. It is for 1 year. Our staff will be trained on the system. We'll have complete access. We will be handling the attorney assignments from the roster that we oversee anyway. And then we will continue to work on our own case management system in the interim.
You said something, lean?
Yes,
What-
I'm
is that
sorry.
An acronym?
It is an
Okay.
acronym for Law Enforcement Information Network.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right, great. Do you have any questions on item number 4? I think we're all set. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Going back to item number 2. I don't think I don't think we stalled long enough for that. So Commissioner Clean, I don't know that we're going to be able to answer your question. Maybe in full board, or we can Can you repeat your question and then perhaps
just-
someone from the department can get your answer?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just, we have several boards that we approve, more than several, that we approve appointments to. And I always think it's important that we state out loud in public what the duties of this board are. So I'll do it at full board.
Clerk, are we at the end? Okay. Could I get a motion to approve items 1 through 4, please? Been moved by Commissioner Clark Coleman and seconded by Commissioner Colleen. Any last questions or discussion? Commissioner Basham.
I will at this time abstain on item number 1.
Right. When it comes up on the screen, please vote.
We're there. All right, you got it in.
Motion carried
Abstaining on 1.
Yeah, Commissioner.
with Commissioner Basham abstaining on item 1.
Madam Clerk, next item.
F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
There are none. Next item.
Public comments.
Does anyone wish to make a public comment to the Committee on Government Operations? Is there anyone on the phone or on Zoom? You can just unmute yourself or raise your hand. Did we receive any emails?
There are no emails.
Last call for public comments. Hearing none. Next item.
Adjournment.
And a motion to adjourn. It's been moved by Commissioner Clark Coleman, seconded by Commissioner Basham without